Chat, here we stop. Here we stop for the first time in 1,000 days. Today's video is going to be a little bit different as we reflect on the channel, how it's gotten to this point, and I tell you what the plan is for the future past this video, as well as I ask for some questions from you guys, and I will be addressing all the ones you want to hear about, including the one you've been asking the most about, which is whether or not there'll be a Feer versus Johnny Boy show match. But let's go back and talk about the 1,000 video streak and why it started in the first place. Well, the reason why it started was slightly on accident. This Adverse versus Quell was the video that began the streak. I had missed a day right before this one. And I, towards the end of 2020, decided that it was probably better to stop focusing on the amount of views and the amount of subscribers that I was getting on the channel and instead focus on something that I could control 100%, which was how much do I upload videos. If I upload a video every single day, then I can reflect back and say, I've done what I've tried to do. Whether they get views or not. So I've done that for a very long time. In fact, I've done it through the entirety of my growth on the channel. You could see these videos back in the day when the streak started are getting about 100 to maybe 200 views. And as time went on, you could see that slowly growing and slowly finding my footing in the Rocket League YouTube world. Now, why would I ever stop this? It's been working well for me. Why stop now? And I think the reason why is the strategy has changed. I want to say that this was a good strategy when I first started because I didn't know what was going to work. I had not commentated enough games. I wasn't as skilled of a YouTuber, of a just personality in the Rocket League scene, and I needed reps. So putting out a video every single day was a great way to do that. And for the past 1,000 days, I have trained and trained and trained. But as I have gotten towards the end of the streak, I've felt like it started to be counterintuitive. I've started to feel like I'm getting stressed about putting out a video at all times, and I'm maybe even running into moments where it's probably better not to put out a video. Maybe because I don't have a great idea for it, or because it's just not the right time. And maybe I could use that time or use that stress that I have focusing on getting a video out no matter what for maybe better reasons for the channel. So that's why it's ending. It's ending because it has burning me out a little bit, and I'd rather have the freedom. And I just wanted to end it on my own terms. I could have let this go on and on and on. And maybe when I had a kid who's coming in late October, I might end it on accident, but I wanted to end it because I wanted to end it. So for the very first time, tomorrow, there will be no long form video from Feer. I might have a short or something. And that is intentional. Now, what does that mean going forward? Am I going to start uploading half as many videos? Am I going to start uploading a third as many videos? The plan is unbounded. I'm hoping to upload similarly. Maybe I upload every single day still. Maybe I start, a 30 or 40, 50 day streak because I feel like every day I have something good and worthwhile to put out. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll start skipping every other day. The point is, it's time to change the strategy for the channel, hopefully for the better. I think putting out a video every single day was good for the short term, and now it's time to potentially think, how can we grow the channel even more? How can I give you guys a product that you deserve? And I think it's maybe every once in a while skipping a day. And I feel bad for those that have been watching every single day for a long time, because some of you maybe have been here for 1,000 days. Of course, only 100 of you could possibly be, since the original videos only had about 100. But even now, if you've been along for the streak for maybe the last year or even the last couple months watching every single day, I do slightly apologize. There's going to be a day when you don't have a video, but I feel like I'm still doing it for you guys. You guys who have been so committed to the channel for so long deserve to get the best possible videos and deserve to not have me phone in any video on any given day. Instead, full quality. So that is the plan. That is the reason why the 1,000 video streak is ending. And I asked you guys if you had any questions to ask me, because it's over the course of this 1,000 videos, I'll go ahead and answer them. You guys asked quite a few, a lot of them grouped together for the same kind of thing. So we'll cover them in the next segment. Around your sub/view range, do you make a decent amount of profit to survive off of? So a few of you guys asked about this. You also asked, how many primes would you actually need to be able to go full time? And also, Wid asked if there was a moment that content creation felt like it became real instead of a side hobby. And I think all of those kind of work together. And I'll show you a little graphic. I'm not showing you the exact numbers, but this is from the spreadsheet that I use to track the income that I've been able to make from Rocket League. And the answer is that for the past year or so, I definitely have made enough profit to survive off of, for sure, especially if you use the word survive. I think it's a little bit different for somebody in my situation who has a kid on the way, has a house, and has some, needs a little bit more security from this. I think if I had started maybe a few years ago, I might have switched over when I had less expenses, but it's definitely enough to survive off of. And what you're looking at right here is a mix of where the income that I get from doing Rocket League stuff comes from. The big red is you guys, the YouTube, the big chunk. Thank you guys so much for how much you contribute to me potentially being able to do this as a job. And you can see the sliver is the primes. It's the Twitch revenue that actually isn't even really the primes. Majority of it is the ad revenue that I've started getting recently. And then the green is me starting to work either with stream different deals or maybe YouTube ads, like specific inclusions of ads, or casting for other organizations and doing stuff that isn't my stream or my YouTube. So the collective of all of them together reached a point where it surpassed my software job. And that was probably the moment that I felt like, oh, wow, this is maybe a job. Definitely it was a hobby up until that point. But right around when it started to spike up, it was briefly more than I made doing software. And I thought, wow, this could actually be a job that ended up be my only job. Now, it's also been part of the stress because ever since that happened, my whole mindset changed from it just being completely fun, using every little bit of money that I made towards just making more tournaments with no expectations that I could ever work off of it. And now that it seems possible, it has made it so that every bit of success or not success feels essential or devastating, which has been tough and is kind of the reason why I'm trying to pull a little bit of that stress back off. Is it realistic to begin a YouTube channel now? So a lot of people asked a similar variant to this question, whether it was, why did you get started? Which I think is going to have the same answer, or if I wanted to start now, could I start, etc. How were you able to do it when things weren't going as well? And the answer is, it's just what I like to do. I mean, I started streaming a couple years before I started doing show matches, and I did that for fun. It was nice, and it worked just as well for me in terms of giving myself an outlet other than work or my main work to do and have fun with. It was around the time that I started to rage at the game a little bit and realized it wasn't making me super happy that I would just do show matches, because I watched show matches and that was my favorite content to consume. So why not just try and do it myself as a fun side hobby? Maybe I can make a mark on the 1v1 scene. And that was really probably my only initial goal. I wasn't even thinking about getting Twitch partner. I wasn't thinking about making money. I was just thinking maybe if I did it enough, people would talk about 1v1 and they'd include Feer's matches as like a relevant part of the scene. And that's how I started. And the reason why I was able to continue to grind through when it wasn't going well was because I just liked doing it. I just liked doing it enough that even if it never succeeded, I would maybe keep going. There was a moment right before it started to pick up that I thought about quitting because I was going as hard as I was, or maybe needed to slow down. But the reality is, that's the reason why it worked out. And that's the reason why I think a lot of other people might not succeed, is because they don't just have enough fun doing the process. You just have to have fun doing it, whether it's going to work. And luckily for me, I didn't expect it to work, and it did. Someone asked, why 1v1? I mean, you prefer watching 4 hours of 1v1 than 4 hours of 3v3. I think they're saying, do you prefer? And I do. I don't know why I've always enjoyed 1v1 more. I liked watching the show matches that Johnny would put up more than 3v3. Maybe because it felt a little bit easier to follow. The decision making and the control of the game was clearer under a single person's perspective. I'm not sure exactly why I always enjoyed ones more. I loved the idea of the 13-year-old youngster Scrub Killer who was dominating some of the players who have been playing for a longer time. I really liked that that was possible and how he was pushing the game forward. So I don't know. 1v1 was easier to consume from my perspective. 3s felt a bit more random, a bit more lucky. I don't think, this game doesn't have any random, doesn't have luck. It just felt more controlled and more of a battle between two people. So that's why I've always enjoyed ones more. What's the craziest experience you've had hanging out with someone in the Rocket League community in real life? I haven't hung out with people too much. I mean, I guess there's opportunities to hang out with people after LANs, but everything has been fairly tame. After parties are really just everybody hanging around, chatting with each other. Nothing too crazy. I would say the craziest experience for me was when COVID ended and the first LAN that came back during all of the years which there were no LANs was kind of the time that I grew up in the scene a little bit. So going to LA for the first time and having people be like, yo, Feer, yo, what up, Feer? Recognizing me from something I had done in Rocket League was truly the craziest thing. It doesn't really slow down or ever stop being crazy, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. What are some of your favorite show matches you've ever casted? I think that the first couple that come to my head is First Killer versus apparently Jack in what I believe was the Fall 5K, in which apparently Jack was able to win and get his first ever 1v1 tournament win. Considering what he means to the Ones community, it was cool to be a part of it, and at the time it was also my peak viewership. So I think that match was really big. And then the other match that I really liked was Daniel versus Khaled, a match that I set up in the early days when Daniel was getting to be one of the best players in the world, and I wanted to prove he was the very best. So Daniel versus Khaled meant a lot. I think a lot of people thought that maybe Khaled would win that matchup. Daniel won it 4-1. So that one was huge too. What's your favorite moment been so far during your casting career? Now, for my casting career, I think of when I'm not doing my own channel, because I've enjoyed doing 1v1s and all that stuff. But to me, it seems like you're asking what about everything else I've done. And the two things that come to my mind as the things I was certainly most excited for beforehand were when I casted with Johnny for the first time ever at a Crew Battles event that included us casting some 1v1s, a couple different 1v1s together. That was something that had me up all night when I was having to do it the next day. And then the other thing that had me super nervous and excited was sitting on the desk at Worlds. I sat on the desk at Worlds for the Friday Night Duels thing. They had me on as basically an analyst beforehand, and I said maybe 30 seconds of words, but everything up until that point and being able to be a part of it was probably one of my favorite moments. Who is your dream player you always wanted to play on your stream? So from the very beginning, I always wanted First Killer, because First Killer was North America's best player, and as I started to get more and more North Americans, I really wanted to get First Killer on, especially because I wanted them to play Daniel, and just because I felt like, you know, First Killer was the top. So if I was able to get there and get the best player in North America, that'd be a good sign for me. But the other player that I really wanted to have on was Scrubkilla, because Scrubkilla was the guy I watched and got excited over once for a long time. So when I was first able to get Scrubkilla on a match, that was a bit surreal, because this guy I've watched forever is now all of a sudden in my matches. And who's someone you want but haven't had play yet? So I'd love to have everybody play for the most part, and I feel like I've gotten to the top where, you know, every player in all the play range or all the skill level range will play on my stream. But I never got to have Fairy Peak on. Fairy Peak, the GOAT of 1v1, has not played on the channel yet, and I'd love to have him on. Maybe I'll somehow get him on in the future. If you could go back in time and cast any 1v1 that has already happened, which would you want to cast? I think it would be actually a recent match, which was Zen versus Rawas, because I think culturally that match had a huge impact. It was one of the first times that it seemed like the whole world of Rocket League wanted to tune in to see who was going to win it. And in the past couple of years or so, I can't think of a match that had more meaning to 1v1. So ideally, I would have loved to have been me who got to host it and cast it. Would you be interested in being an RLCS caster, or will you stick to just 1v1 and team streams? I talked about this a few times, but I'll say it again. I am mostly focused on my YouTube and Twitch, because if I had to pick one or the other that I could live off of, I would pick being able to stream and do YouTube. I like that kind of agency and doing all things by myself. Ideally, though, I'll do both at some point. You know, I haven't really been working towards becoming an RLCS stream or RLCS commentator, because I haven't been grinding out different events or working towards the CRL or doing the kind of stuff that I think you need to do in order to prep for that. But maybe one day it'll work out and I'll get to do both. That would, of course, be the dream. What player have you enjoyed seeing improve the most after you first casted them? And for the most part, the answer is all of the next gen guys, because I have been watching them for the longest time, and not all of them started. In fact, I'd say all of them didn't start as good as they are now. Specifically, Daniel, Rawas, Moxie, guys like Chronic. Chronic is probably a weaker example, because when he first played in the next gen, he had already played in tons of 1v1 events, and he was considered a top ones player. So it's not like he really grew through the channel or grew from my perspective. But Daniel, Rawas, Moxie, those guys who have been around for a really long time and now are just the best players, period. We were watching them back before they were there. So it's been awesome to see them improve and everybody realize just how good they can be. Have you ever casted a match where you had to fake being more excited / hyped than you actually were? And if so, how do you handle that? Now, I don't think I've had to fake, as you're saying, anything on my own stream. In fact, I don't think I've really had to fake ever. I think when you're doing commentating and you're doing stuff where you're in front of a camera, you just exaggerate or embellish. I can't think of a nice word for it. But the reality is, when I think about it, like if I'm watching someone else's show match and something crazy happens, I'm sitting there, I go, oh, wow. That's good. Something like that, right? Which is obviously not a reaction I can do on camera. So instead of doing that, you play it up a little bit and you play into the feeling that I think everyone is feeling, but as your job as the commentator and the person on camera is to, you know, take it to the max so that everyone can get out of it what they should. So I don't know if fake is the right answer, but there's certainly the, you know, you take the little bit of feeling and you exaggerate it up so that then everyone else can decide how hyped they want to be. Whereas if you just play it like this, oh, that's kind of cool, then, you know, maybe people can't get into it as much as they would like to. Do show matches ever get totally stopped by outside forces, whether it be scrims or something else? All the time. You guys see 50% maybe, I don't know if that's a good number, of the show matches that actually end up making it through. But if you guys could see all the matches that for whatever reason had to get canceled or somebody couldn't do, oh, you guys would be blown away. Is there something else you want to try and do someday that isn't Rocket League? I'd be down to be another kind of streamer. I'd be down to be like a variety streamer or a commentator on, or not like a commentary YouTuber. I think that would be a cool avenue to work in, but I'd rather do Rocket League. I'd also be down to play World of Warcraft. Used to play it a ton. I have a buddy who plays World of Warcraft on stream as his main job. Seems like a great gig. I would gladly take his gig as well. But for now, I'm cool with doing Rocket League. Maybe in the future, if Rocket League dies out or something, I'll try something else. What rank are you in the actual game? That is, if you play it, and what is your main playlist? I play every season to get rewards in Grand Champ. I'm Grand Champ in 2v2. I've dropped the other ranks. I think the past 2 or 3 seasons, I haven't even finished placements in them. Sometimes I'll finish placements in 1s. I don't think I've finished placements in 3s for years. So those ranks are much lower. But the one that I do play, and I play every time in order to get Grand Champ rewards, is 2s. And I don't get much higher than Grand Champ 1. Once every 4 seasons, I'll like dip into Grand Champ 2 for a second. And then usually they reset everyone harder because they're like, oh, Feer made it. That means we accidentally let the ranks inflate a little bit too much. So push them back down. Did you ever play a game with the kid that Dr. Feer treated in the ER? Yes, I mentioned this on stream. In case you guys remember, there was a story where my wife met somebody that she was working on who had broken their wrist or arm or something, a kid who seemed excited about the idea that I was a Rocket League YouTuber, and so he added me. I did eventually play with him. I played with him a couple times. We played like an Easter game mode, I think, for like an hour or so, and then I played with him again. I 1v2'd him and his friend. I actually recorded that one, but I decided not to make it a video. But yes, I did play with him. And now for the question that you guys have asked about the most. Will there ever be a Feer versus Johnny Boy 1v1? Now, if you guys remember, I actually was the first to suggest Feer versus Johnny in a 1v1. Long before you guys ever did, when there was the EU versus NA challenge that happened during COVID. I actually brought up that there were going to be 4 matches, and if there was a tie, it would be broken by me and Johnny 1v1ing each other. And his response was to instead change the format to have way more pro 1v1s and no potential chance of a 1v1 between us two. Now, to be fair, I think his version of the event was a much more entertaining version of the event than the version I had, but it felt like I gave the first offer for Feer versus Johnny, so I've kind of been waiting to see if he'll say anything about it to me, because it seemed like maybe he didn't want to do it in the first place. But you guys have asked about it enough. I promise I'll bring it up to him again. But what you guys don't know is that we actually played recently. We played recently in ranked because I'm US West and he's EU. We caught each other for a single game on US East, and I have the replay. So for the 1000th video, we will end today by showing you the ranked replay of Feer versus Johnny. Okay, so here is the ranked replay of me and Johnny. You can see here is me on the blue team, Johnny over here on the red team, queuing up into US East. We're going to cover just a little bit of how the match went. So at the start of the match, of course, I'm naturally going to fake kickoff because I know Johnny very likely to fall for it. And because I had been feeling a little bit mechy, I went for this nice reset pogo air dribble and then just faked the musty real quick. And come on, let's be honest. We know Johnny's fallen for that fake. He just fell for the fake kickoff in the first kickoff. So what do we do? Of course, we're going back to the fake kickoff again. And he plays right into it. Now from the left side of the field, you know what we're going to go for. A nice reset pogo. It worked last time. Why not this time? And just barely, I wasn't able to get it. So all right, credit to Johnny. And Johnny actually did a good job. He cuts around this corner and puts one on the board. So we're equal. But you know what? You guys can tell how this game is going to go. Let's just go ahead and skip to the end. All right, at this point, I'm up 6-1. And Johnny, he's begging for the game to end. So I give him what he wants. A nice stylish multiple reset shot right into the top shelf. And you better believe that Johnny had had enough. He forfeits there. With 43 seconds left to go, I absolutely put the smackdown on our boy Johnny. So there you go. If you've been wondering how Feer versus Johnny Boy would go in 1v1, look no further than this replay file. That is the most legitimate replay file you've ever seen. Feer dominated. It was a 7-1 victory with ease.